court, please.
Ballistics expert?
Now, you were asked to examine this gun, is that correct?
Yes, I was. It's a .38 revolver that 20 years ago was registered to Dr. Bradley Ward.
Now, this bullet was found in a tree behind the bench where Dr. Ward was shot. Is it from a .38?
No, sir. It's from a Luger.
Is it possible to determine which Luger?
Yes, sir. A gun barrel leaves distinctive marks on a spent bullet, sort of like fingerprints.
Now, you were also asked to examine this gun.
Yes, I was.
Now, in your expert opinion, did the bullet that killed Bradley Ward come from this gun?
Yes, sir, it did.
Let the record show that Mr. Russo has identified a Luger belonging to the defendant, Edward Quartermain. The state enters the Luger and the bullet into evidence as State's Exhibit C and D. No further questions.
Mr. Stannis?
You say that the bullet that killed Bradley Ward was shot from that gun. In your expert opinion, can you ascertain who pulled the trigger that night?
No, sir, of course not.
No further questions.
You may step down.
Mamie, I told the sitter that I'd come back right after you testified, but are you sure you're all right?
Oh, you go and give the baby girl a big hug for me.
Grandfather, can I get you anything?
There's some evidence in my favor.
This may be it.
What is it?
You may be right. It's proof positive that Jack Boland was in cahoots with Frank Smith long before they claimed to know each other.
Good work. Boland's testifying next. Well, Edward, it looks like the worm has turned.
Good, thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to allow this to be introduced, Mr. Schultz. Let's proceed.
State calls Jack Boland.
Place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please be seated.
Mr. Boland, 20 years ago, at the time of Bradley Ward's death, that very night, in fact, you had occasion to meet with the defendant, Edward Quartermain.
Yes, he wanted several of us to meet at my house. At 1 in the morning, actually.
Couldn't wait till the next day?
Well, when Edward wants to do something, he doesn't like to wait. He's a man of action. But he clearly reached his limits where Bradley Ward was concerned.
Talk about damning a man with praise.
According to your statement to the police, Bradley Ward had been issued an ultimatum earlier?
That's right. I assumed that Edward might have had a response, hence the urgent meeting. But I was wrong. Edward was extremely agitated when he arrived. And he said that he had decided to handle the whole Bradley Ward situation himself.
How?
Well, he didn't say. Just that the ultimatum wasn't a good idea and that we should drop it.
And did you all agree to that?
Well, of course not. I tried to calm him down, but he just became increasingly emotional about the whole thing. So finally, we suggested that he go back to his apartment and get some rest. And in retrospect, one of us should have gone with him.
Crucify him when you get the chance.
What's the last thing that Edward Quartermain said to you that night? Mr. Boland, you are under oath.
Well, he was very angry. He said he'd take care of Bradley. Then he stormed out.
And did the others leave then?
No, we all felt the need for a good stiff drink.
And about a half hour after that, you received a phone call.
Yes, it was Edward. He said the matter had been resolved and that Bradley Ward wouldn't cause us any more trouble.
And how did you interpret that?
Frankly, I didn't ask questions for ethical reasons.
He doesn't have an ethical bone in his body.
Did you and Edward Quartermain ever discuss this matter again?
No, wasn't any point. Bradley was never seen again.
So, Edward Quartermain knew what he was talking about when he said that Bradley Ward wouldn't cause you any more trouble. No further questions.
I don't believe you specified who exactly was at this 1 a.m. meeting at your house.
It's Edward, myself, and Lee Baldwin.
Well, just the three of you?
And Frank Smith.
Right. He was an investor in the airport deal. I remember your sworn statement to the police. Here it is. I didn't really know Frank Smith, but I heard he had money and was looking for a project to invest in, and I suggested Edward give him a call. So you brought Frank Smith into the mix.
Well, he brought himself.
So were Frank Smith and Lee Baldwin both still present when you received the call from Edward saying the Bradley Ward matter had been resolved?
Oh, yes.
Well, what did you tell them when you hung up from the call?
Nothing.
But you'd all been discussing the problem an hour earlier. Or surely you told him who it was on the phone.
Well, actually, no.
Why not?
Because I had decided to speak to Edward in person first. Something about the call disturbed me.
So you were being cautious.
Exactly.
Understandable. Especially since you had never dealt with Frank Smith before.
Well,
I just read your sworn statement to that fact. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's pretty much correct.
It's a complete lie. Nearly a year before you say you heard of Frank Smith and suggested that Edward call him, you and Frank Smith were partners in a deal to build a number of motels in New Jersey. Sure. 2 years before that, you were involved in a housing project that was later investigated for using substandard materials. Not to mention charges of bribing city officials and asking for union kickbacks.
Those charges were never proved.
Then you admit that you lied under oath about your previous connections with Frank Smith. What else have you lied about?
I can explain. Edward and Lee were fussy about certain things. And, I knew that they would have turned up their noses at Frank's money, and we needed it.
Answer my question. What else have you lied about under oath? Did you lie about the phone call you received from Edward Quartermain saying the Bradley Ward matter had been resolved? Who really made that phone call? What was it really about?
Objection! Counsel's badgering the witness.
Here's something you don't see every day. One of the Silver Eagles sweating.
Court will come to order.
There's a criminal investigation to be pursued here. A much better use of the taxpayers' money than trying to pin a 20-year-old murder on an upstanding Port Charles citizen.
Your Honor, objection!
Mr. Stannis.
No further questions, Your
This better be important.
It is. There's just been an unfortunate development in the Bradley Ward murder case.
Keep us cool, damn it.
They took him by surprise.
All right. This is what I want you to do.